Good morning from a very cold and windy Jersey City in New Jersey. It's about -1 Celsius at the moment, so it's a very typical early December day. Starting my Hamish's Guide to New York City. So, a good question is, why am I starting this in New Jersey instead of New York City? And that's a good question. I'll be taking the commuter train into the city, and that's a very typical thing for people to do. There are a lot of people who do that every day. So I'll be taking the what's called the PATH train, and that goes from New Jersey into New York City. New York City itself is about 8.5 million people. The metropolitan area around it is about 25 million people. There are millions of people who every day live outside of the city in New York, New Jersey, New York State, New Jersey, Connecticut, and commute into the city mostly via train. So when you see in movies the New York City subway, that's the classic New York City within the city subway that people use to get around the city. But there are also multiple commuter lines. New York City is a hub for a lot of commuting, and there are multiple train lines. So, for example, in New Jersey, there's the PATH, there's also the Metro North, and other trains. There are people who commute from other areas of New York State using the Metro North. There are people who commute from Connecticut using the Metro North. There's the Long Island Railroad that goes out through Long Island. And then there are also New Jersey Transit, trains and buses. There are multiple rail lines, bus lines that all feed into the city and come out of the city. And then the New York City subway is within the city, and that's how people get around the city. Now, New Jersey is actually a good place to start because there is a great view of the city, and I'll show you. And this is Manhattan. This is New York City across the river. This is the main part of New York City, the main part. People in New York call this the city. So if you live in other parts of New York City, you come into Manhattan, you often refer to Manhattan as the city, even though you live in New York City. Something interesting you'll see is here we have Lower Manhattan, the bottom of the island, with One World Trade Center, and all of Wall Street is down there. Then look, you can see the buildings get much lower, and then over here, they get much higher again in Midtown. This is the middle of Manhattan, Midtown. The interesting reason for this is New York City, Manhattan is on bedrock. This is all where the bedrock here in Lower Manhattan and up there at Midtown Manhattan, the bedrock is very deep. It goes very deep and it's very close to the surface, so you can build tall buildings. This middle part, the bedrock is much lower than the ground, and so when the ground soil is not so firm, it's harder to build tall buildings. So this is Manhattan, and this is Jersey City behind me, New Jersey. So you can see it's literally, there's a very short gap between New Jersey and New York City. Now a little bit about New York City. So the island directly across from me is Manhattan. That's the main part of New York City, and that's where New York City was originally settled. So in the early 1600s, the Dutch settled Manhattan, and they called it New Amsterdam. From about 1620, they settled New Amsterdam, and it was, then they bought it, I think in about the mid 1620s, like 1625 or something. They bought it from the Native Americans who lived here for 60 Dutch guilders, which is about $1,000 in today's money. So that's a pretty good deal. So they bought Manhattan, the island, off them for about $1,000 in today's money. And then later on, in about 1660s, so about 40 or 50 years later, the English, who had been settling and colonizing North America, they sailed some warships up into the New York Harbor and basically just said, give us this place. And the Dutch just went, okay, sure, whatever, and just handed it over to the English. No, they didn't fight or anything. They just, the Dutch weren't interested in this area. The Dutch didn't want it. There was nothing of any interest for them here, so they just said, sure, England, go ahead, take it. The British renamed it to New York after the Duke of York at the time. So that's how New Amsterdam became New York. There is still a very large Dutch influence in place names. So, for example, Haarlem is from the Dutch, Coney Island is from Dutch, and there are even some other vestiges of the Dutch. For example, the reason Americans say cookie is because that is from a Dutch word. Kokje is Dutch for a small cake. Now, a few other bits of interesting information about this Manhattan that you see behind me in New York City. So New York City is actually 5 boroughs. That's what they call them, boroughs. They're different counties. So there's 5 different parts of the city. Manhattan is the original part of the city, the original New York, and it's where all of the main business, offices, and everything are. And so when you see New York, especially in things like in songs where it's like New York, or there's a saying, the city's so nice they named it twice. New York is Manhattan because it's New York County is Manhattan and it's within New York State. So Manhattan is New York County. The other boroughs are Queens, which is Queens County, and then there's Brooklyn, which actually used to be an independent city, independent from New York, but then was combined into New York City. So Queens was a separate county with multiple different towns in it. Brooklyn was an independent city that was then combined into New York City. Then there's the Bronx, which also was another county. So Queens is Queens County, the Bronx is the Bronx, then there's Brooklyn, and then there's Staten Island, which is Richmond County. Actually, Brooklyn is in Kings County. I got that wrong. Brooklyn is in Kings County, and Brooklyn was a city within Kings County, and then Kings County was combined into New York City. And then there's Queens, the Bronx, and Staten Island, which is Richmond County. Staten Island, most people would agree with me. Staten Island people don't really consider themselves to be part of New York City. It's more like New Jersey than New York City, and most people in New York City don't really consider Staten Island to be a part of the city. So I will be starting in Manhattan, which you see here, Lower Manhattan. This gives you a good view of the island. Across the Hudson River, and I will give my personal view of parts of the city.